Welcome to Schooling Around. Last time we got together, we had a chance to speak with the administration of the Oxford Virtual Academy. We learned about its 3-year journey to being the all-encompassing learning institution it is today. Now we'll get into some of the nuts and bolts. We're going to meet some of the staff at the Virtual Academy Lab. This is located in the Marketplace Plaza in Oxford on Lapeer Road near Anytime Fitness. This is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. We'll meet with some of the teachers after this. When we arrived at the Virtual Academy Lab, we were greeted by teachers Tracy Herford, Peggy Boggs, and Janet Schell. They introduced us to the lab and what it's all about.
We service students in kindergarten through 12th grade, and the majority of the kids that come and work in the lab are middle school and high school students. Elementary students are welcome as well. They come in a lot of times with their parents to get help from our elementary mentor, Mrs. Herford. But we're here to help them, to tutor them, to be their cheerleader, to tell them to get on track when they get off track, coaching, supporting in every way.
This is really the main office right here. I mean, as far as the lab, the facility, this is the main one.
This is where we enroll our students. This is where parents come to get information. This is where the mentors live. This is where administration is based. We have a lab in Kettering, in Flint, in their student services building. They've given us a beautiful space, and we have 2 teachers up there every day. And kids from the Flint area and Lapeer, it's a little bit closer for them, and they'll come and work at that lab as opposed to coming down here. We have a mini lab at Christ the King right here in Oxford.
Yeah, our homeschool group is there.
One of our homeschool groups. We have a lab in Farmington Hills at another location where we have a homeschool connection, homeschool group partnership. We have one in Ann Arbor.
United Learning Academies Ann Arbor,
and we're expanding for next year.
Sterling Heights, Taylor,
Utica area, downriver.
And each location is a different day of the week, so we're able to send staff and really be able to meet the parents and go and visit, and it's really
exciting.
nice.
And we take turns, and so we're kind of
all over.
So we can connect
you're on
with
the move.
kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's not always we can find you guys sitting here like this.
Yeah, and not only are we on the move physically, but we're on the move virtually. So for instance, Mrs. Herford has a Reading and Writing Rocks blended course that she taught via Skype to students in Farmington. So she was actually able to meet her students online real time and have them in a classroom in Farmington with a support down there, a staff person.
Parapro in the classroom. I actually taught the class also at a partnership in Oxford, but because I'm in Oxford, I was able to go there once a week in person, but I also have a virtual component where they're doing work online, preparing for class, and then when they come into class, we discuss and explore literacy. But the Farmington location that Mrs. Schell's referring to, because of the distance is so far, I would go there usually, well, every beginning of the semester, every end of the semester, but then a few times throughout, so that I could personally connect with the students. But weekly, I would Skype them.
Has there been any talk about an international sort of virtual?
We're moving in that direction, and actually, you met Caroline at the board meeting the other night.
Right.
That's, obviously Oxford Community Schools is a very international school district. They have some virtual going on with China, and I believe even into Mexico, but right now, the Virtual Academy, we do have students who travel global and are able to continue their studies. So, for instance, Caroline traveled to Germany and was able to help her orchestra, her band set up in 19 cities, and
She was involved in a church musical group, and
Yes.
that's her reason for it.
I had a student last year whose parents worked on a cruise ship. So they did their work on a boat.
a ballerina, and
have
We all have somebody to
Yeah,
right,
ballerina
I
in
have
Pittsburgh.
a
You
student
can-
who competes nationally in pageants and dance and beauty pageants. She's an elementary student, and so even on my level and the K-5 level, we have students that make it work for their life.
dancers, hockey players,
So when you-
photographs,
Entertainers.
entertainers.
When you watch like the Olympics on TV and you see all
Exactly.
these figure skaters, these young,
Exactly.
who are in their teens,
Exactly.
and you know they're still high school students,
Right?
this is how some of them would get their
Exactly.
education.
Absolutely.
Exactly. It's a great way to look for their passion, find their passion, and live it.
Okay.
But educate themselves as well. So they're living the dream, I think. It's great.
When we come back, we look at homeschooling at the elementary level. Teacher Tracy Herford is involved with virtual ed at the elementary level. She talks about homeschooling and the younger kids.
I'm a former homeschooler. I homeschooled all three of my children for a few years when they were in elementary by choice because I'm a teacher and at heart, and I had that driving me to do that. And I didn't have the virtual option, so I was pretty limited as far as curriculum and things that I could expose my children to.
That was back in the old days.
Yeah, we had stone tablets. But you know, now the options, it's amazing because parents can really access the curriculum and choose to educate their students at home. On my level, the K-5 level, parents, it's a real partnership with myself and the parents. Although I said before, it's a parent-driven program, but we work as a team. If they have questions about certain lessons or certain strategies or even classroom management, how to have their student perform, I can help them with that. So they have the Oxford connection. And although this kind of just came to mind, although we're virtual, it's a very human school. If that
Very
yeah,
personal.
it's
Relationships
very-
are
it's
probably
everything.
I would say probably the biggest driving factor of what the success.
Right. I think there are a lot of virtual schools out there, and what helps us stand apart is that we are very focused on the relationship between the mentor, the parent, and the student. And working together, we're able to be as successful as we've been. We're doing great.
Well, for people who are homeschooling, give us a little insight as to how that works, if they live in the area.
Sure.
Do the kids have to come in and take tests here, or what?
Well, that's
how does
actually,
that?
that's a good question, because I think that everybody wonders that. On my level, the students sometimes will come in for placement testing, because if they're homeschooled, a lot of times they're at different levels, so we can differentiate levels for reading, for math, depending on where they are. We can meet the student there for their levels, for their classes. They'll come in for intervention on my level, meaning just help, tutoring, instructional assistance, and sometimes I have students just stop in to say, hi, how are you? You know, it's really nice, especially if they're in this area. But most of the time on my level, they're at home working, and I'm able to monitor that on my end and just see if there's anywhere I need to step in or help or call. And weekly, we have communication with all of our students. We call that our mentor communication. Once a week, whether it's through a phone call or an email or Skype or
Text.
Text messages.
cell phones.
Lab visits.
It's a pleasure to be able to communicate with each and every one every week.
How does it work for the real young kids, the first graders and second graders? How does your
Their
interaction?
typical day or my interaction or?
Well, their typical day their typical day in homeschooling.
Okay, well, most of the time, most of my parents have a pretty rigid schedule every day that they've set up. Some parents have even sent me pictures where they literally have a classroom set up in their home with charts, with the daily schedule, with graphic organizers, with bookcases, and then they'll have a cubby for their computer. It's real school. It is. It's a home school, and it just depends on the student and the age. But most of the time they're online about half the time, where they're actually using their computer just about half the time during the day. And then the rest of the time, our learning programs send boxes of supplies. It's almost like Home Depot, or not Home Depot, Office Max, Staples. Those aren't the companies that send the information, but it's boxes and boxes of just supplies, hands-on materials, crayons, Post-it notes, and everything, glue, everything that they would need, hands-on things to learn with. And the parents have it all organized, and then depending on the lesson, they'll work 5 days a week online and typically put in at least an hour to an hour and a half per subject.
And how often do you have to sit down with the parents to go over this stuff to make sure everything's on track?
That's a good question. We always have a beginning of the year orientation where we all meet. It's a great day. It is such a fun day. We have it at the high school, at least we did last year, and the year before, I think. And everyone meets, and we meet everyone, and they get their school pictures taken for school IDs, and we go over expectations, we go over assistance, any of our roles that the parents might need to know about, and then that mentor communication comes in handy, that once a week phone call, email, where we're connecting, especially at the beginning of the year, where the students are setting their foundational work and their pace for the whole year. That's when it's really, we're in the trenches, making sure everyone's on track and pacing themselves appropriately, because we don't want them going too slow, we don't want them going too fast. We want to ensure that the learning's quality. And then after that, it starts to really level off, and they kind of get into a rhythm, and we kind of know they're pretty well-oiled machines by October.
Then we move into the middle and high school years. Janet Schell and Maggie Boggs explain more.
Transitions a little bit more, less parent involvement in the content.
Oh, really?
Yes, as they get older. Every one of our classes has a highly qualified teacher attached. Mostly Oxford teachers are attached, and they engage the student in the content. They help deliver the content, grade the work. We have teachers who actually record a video of an essay feedback and send it to them for every single video essay. We have teachers, our math teachers, who grade the math assignments and record themselves and send it back. So
I imagine there's one or two parents who don't remember algebra.
Yes, and so see, that's where, again, as mentors, we come in. I may get a phone call from mom going, I don't remember the slope-intercept, and okay, we'll either we can put her in an online classroom and go over it with the math teacher here at the lab, or I can explain it to her over the phone, or I can send her to a website and say, okay, it's right there, and give her a refresher, or whoever is at home with the student, or we'll help as well. But we really are connecting. I mean, I have moms I talk to every day. And then I have others I don't hear from hardly at all. I talk to their kids all the time, my students all the time.
And what about extracurriculars? We hear more.
I have a number of students that take their 2 electives over at the middle school. They do their core virtually, but they have gym or choir, orchestra, a language over at the middle school.
So if they live close enough to do that and they desire, they can.
Athletics, marching band.
Well, yes, we have volleyball.
Field trips.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had a big zoo day. Oh, that was our latest field trip, and we have, the next one is Cedar Point.
Tracy, Maggie, and Janet talk more about the flexibility of virtual ed and some surprising situations that validate the program.
I think for the higher achievers, it's a wonderful program because they aren't, I don't want to say held back, but they're not bound by the classroom and what the teacher's teaching to all the 29 other students. They can go further, faster, and deeper, so for them, it's been wonderful. We discussed the travel, the kids who are traveling or working in their things they're passionate about. Allows them to do that.
Apply their learning in a way that you can't always do in a classroom.
The individualizing of the curriculum for our students helps across the board, but that can be very helpful for some of our students that are struggling.
Right.
Because we can zero in, look at the data, identify specifically, diagnostically where they are, and find the tools to help them get to where they need to be.
And for the kids who are struggling, if they have to make up an algebra class in the summertime, they can do that through you, can't they?
Sure.
And
The other thing we haven't touched on is a lot of students might have emotional situations where they're, or an illness. Maybe I've had a couple this year that are not able to be in a middle school environment because physically they're ill, or they have a couple immune disorder, that type of thing.
you never think about it.
No, you don't. And it's been amazing for me as an educator for over 20 years to realize how many different types of kids we are reaching and what we can offer them. And then when you have situations that might be emotional, maybe there's some difficulty, or they're more comfortable at home or more comfortable in a lab environment as opposed to the largeness of a big middle school.
And of course, you ladies are able to distance yourselves emotionally from all these kids, right?
Of course. But that's part of it. We love what we do, and what do? We love children. This is our passion.
There's even college opportunities. The teachers chime in on this and more.
We have opportunities with the early colleges through Oxford Virtual Academy, so students can come to become virtual students, seated students, college students, and graduate with almost an associate's or an associate's degree.
You can get college credit using virtual.
Yep. Dual enrollment and Oxford Schools Early College through Oxford Virtual Academy and or the high school and or partnerships.
And I guess I would, back to the kids again, this has been such an incredible journey for me as a teacher because I'm in an environment where I know it's part of our vision statement that the kids come first. Mm-hmm. And we live that every day. And it's very empowering. It's empowering for the kids and for us as teachers too.
And with that in mind, also the thing that I really enjoy about working here is that although I might be the elementary mentor teacher, Mrs. Boggs is in middle school, Mrs. Shell is our lead teacher, and we have a lot of other staff members that aren't on camera now. It doesn't matter whose student it is. We are there for whoever needs it. That's great.
Mrs. Boggs, you're the PR person, right? Is that correct?
I suppose. I do a little social media,
Well,
a little bit of marketing here.
I want to talk about something that we haven't touched on yet, but it's a very real part of education these days, and that is the business of education. The district earns funds when they have students, when they acquire students. Is it your job to try and develop that in any way, shape, or form?
In terms of getting the word out, absolutely. We want parents to know that we have a place where there are opportunities for their kids. So I'm constantly trying to find ways to reach parents, reach the community, reach other students. Yesterday, I finally figured out how to use Instagram, which is...
Will you show me?
Seriously, this has been an incredible tool as a virtual educator. But you take Instagram, you take this picture, and then you sort of put it out there with the kids. The high schoolers are teaching me how to do this. And then you put a hashtag on it, Mrs. Boggs, and then you send it, and then we'll do a shout out. I said, well, okay, kids. And I mean, I had 10 followers within 10 minutes. It was amazing. And they're like, well, if we shout it out. So they're taking, which is kind of exciting. They've got some ownership of investment. Yeah, and I said, okay, by the end of next week, I want 500 followers. They're like, okay, we'll get you there. Because I want, and that's the student end of it. I want the kids to know what they could do here, the older kids that maybe are in seated environments that are unhappy, or maybe this would work for them. And then we have Facebook for parents, where we can show some of the exciting things that we're doing here. And then also working with Twitter to more for the community. I follow a lot of community type organizations, and so that we're reaching, I don't look at it in terms of money. That's not what I do. I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I want kids to know, I want parents to know, and I want the community to know that this is an amazing school and an amazing opportunity for their kids.
Another choice you can make involves different programs that you can choose your classes from. An explanation.
We're always looking at new curriculum because when our students do come into the virtual academy, we look at learning styles. So our students, we have most virtual academies will only pick 1 or 2 programs. We have about, I think, 8, which could be a logistical nightmare. I think we talked about it with Andrew the other day, but the reason we do it is that we can customize and individualize the students' the curriculum to their needs, and it can even be different. We have students that have 4 different companies that they use because they like the way that they teach a specific subject. So that's really...
They may take their core in one vendor, but then they take their electives to other vendors. So altogether,
When you use the word vendor, we are a vendor. Is that correct?
the vendor provides the online curriculum. So we have Edgenuity, Aventa, Apex, Connexus, Lincoln. What am I missing?
Okay, so
K-12, which is a big one in Michigan. So we offer all these different online curriculums.
Programs.
Okay,
So
they select.
students,
They
yeah,
And they can select
we
something
guide
from
them,
each.
and we say, all right, well, normally we have them take 4 core, like in the one, English, math, science, social studies, in one vendor. And then their electives, they might take a language in one vendor, and maybe an art class in a different vendor.
And it's basically because some students, like Janet had said, some would prefer to read more, or others might prefer to watch a video more. And each program or vendor reaches a different type of learning.
Now for a closer look at the lab.
This is our 3rd year, our 3rd home, so we're happy to be here in the nice Marketplace Mall. Families get to come and enjoy, drop their children off, to come in and receive mentor support, content teacher instructional support. Students have a place to come and work and socialize and be a part of the Oxford Community School District.
Now, when you say this is your 3rd home, were you in some smaller facilities before?
We were downtown for a season, and we were at the high school for a little while, and while we were waiting for this to be ready for us.
Okay. Now, in this facility, is this for a special age group of children, or?
Peggy, why don't you talk to that, if you wouldn't mind?
We service kids in kindergarten all the way through high school, grade 12. And our lab here is pretty much middle school, high school, elementary students come in to work with their parents and with our elementary mentor, Mrs. Herford. So we get a variety, all age groups working together.
Okay.
We're in the lab.
Mrs. Herford's
Come on in, Miss
Why don't you
Rutherford.
join us in here and give us your 2 cents worth too, Tracy?
Well, luckily, we have this great facility. A lot of my students, like Mrs. Boggs had said, were kindergarten through 5th grade, and they come in for workshops, intervention for assistance in reading and math, and also a big part of the elementary program. Big part of my job is I help parents. So multiple times throughout the year, parents will come in for assistance on how to instruct their student, because it is a parent-driven program, and I'm here to help in any way I can, make sure their student success.
We can talk more about that later, but why don't you show us around the
Okay.
facility itself here and
All
give
right.
us an idea, and Ryan will follow you.
Okay. This front lab is basically for more focus work, where the students can have a little quieter space so that they can really kind of tune in on what they're doing. We have some finals going on right now,
So we got it. We can't bother.
But we have Nick, who's high school. We have a few other kids who are middle school over here as well. And this is Mrs. Wanachek.
Hi, Mrs. Wanachek.
Lisa Wanachek is our partnership mentor teacher, so she is usually out on the field. But as we're finishing up the year, luckily we have her in-house now. So she's...
You talk a little bit about your satellite locations and what you do?
We have a few other locations. We partner with some homeschool groups. The students get to take electives on site with teachers teaching classes, and I am the kind of the liaison for those students that are OVA students as well. So it's a great way for kids to explore, talents and passions, and it's a really fun program. So it's just something I don't think a lot of people know that we do here at OVA. They can take their electives at these satellite, partnership organizations that we have. One's here in Oxford, there's one in Farmington, we have one that will be in Taylor.
We also
So they're
with
elective based.
downtown too with Bryant's karate
Yeah.
and
Flip spot gymnastics?
Students can take gymnastics, karate, dance classes, also as electives as part of their full program or a part-time program, so there's a lot of flexibility.
So that one's right here in Oxford, but these other locations, these other satellites you were talking about, are they offices like this, or?
No, they're actually church buildings that they've rented space out of, and it's a homeschool group that runs basically a homeschool academy, if you will. And they take electives there, so they might take an online class and a seated elective at the homeschool academy, or they might just take the seated classes at the homeschool academy. So in those particular sites, most of them are homeschooled, but we also, at the one that's here in Oxford, we have a lot of full-time online students who are taking their electives at our homeschool academy sites.
And that's Yara Homeschool Group out at Christ the King. So that's on Mondays.
This is in Christ the King Church.
Christ the King Church. They
So
rent
do-
space.
they
The Yara
have-
Homeschool Group.
Do they have like computer cubicles like you have here?
A lab with more tables.
Yes. And then pretty much every room in the church is used as a classroom for art and debate, science, robotics, all throughout the day, gym classes.
Can those kids come into those locations for the same reason these kids are here?
We do have like one of the rooms we use as a lab. Most of the kids who use the lab there are students who are also taking classes on site, and then part of the time they're working on their online classes in the lab.
Educational philosopher Robert Hutchins once wrote, "The object of education is to prepare the young to educate themselves throughout their lives. Perhaps the Virtual Academy is one more step along that path." For further information, you can reach the Oxford Virtual Academy at 248-969-5009. Thanks to the teachers and staff at the Oxford Virtual Academy for sharing, to Ryan Myers for editing, Kyle Snades at the controls, and you for watching. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.